Hey guys, welcome back to another Fmod tutorial that I've been making using my Castle Lovers Fmod session. So in this video, I'm going to be talking you through my dialogue, which is more like Simlish, which is a gibberish language, basically that a lot of video games use, so you don't have to hire professional voice actors or dedicate a lot of space or time to writing a script and making dialogue lines. So for this game, there were a few ups and downs with the way that that I was doing the dialogue. When I first got my asset list and I asked what dialogue we kind of needed, I didn't fully understand exactly how it was going to be working in the game, which is basically it's a pretty common mistake to make in video games, I guess. Without clear communication, you can really set yourself off on a completely different tangent because everyone has different ideas of how games work. So for me as an audio guy, I asked what I needed, and I got told there are 10 different characters each with a male and a female gender, and they have three different responses. There's a good response, as you can see on the left hand side, there's a bad response, and there's a neutral response to you talking to them as their ruler. I took this as they spoke a good sentence, a bad sentence, and like a neutral sentence. So when you said something, they would report to you basically and say, "Oh, something bad has happened," or "Something good has happened," or something, this kind of happened. So I thought we were making full sentences, and without being well, I kind of dug myself into a hole because I wanted to be a little bit more dynamic in the way that this game worked, which I've thrown that word around a lot. But what I ended up doing is what you can see in front of you was I started using multi-instruments to have a start of a sentence, which you can see here. There's a bunch of shots or a bunch of instances for starting a sentence. Then it blends into the middle of the sentence and then ends with the end of a sentence. You can see that there's a lot of work that's gone into making one sentence very dynamic. So for the doctor and for the blacksmith, I ended up finishing this. You can see that they have the three different structures, basically start, middle, and end. So cutting that up, editing it all was a bit of a nightmare. It took me about an hour and a half per character per gender. So that didn't really work all that well. So what I ended up, but anyway, I'll play it for you. And this was the dream that I had in mind in the game. It's still a little bit rough, but I was drawing inspiration from a game called Reigns, which I've talked about in a blog before. Reigns does a similar kind of thing. I'm not sure if it's dynamic or it's different every time, but they speak sentences like this, just total gibberish. Sometimes it works, and sometimes it really doesn't work that much. But it took me quite a lot to get these actually working, with getting the crossfade working properly. I was trying to time them so that they all started and ended at the same time, which doesn't really work in a sentence because every single sentence is differently. So then to save myself time, I ended up going back and just recording one-shot lines, like for the captain. You can also tell that the reverb changed because I went back and changed in the settings, which was a rookie error. But this ended up working a lot better. But you can imagine seeing it in the game if you were talking to a male captain over and over again. You would be able to basically memorize every single line that these people are saying to you. Maybe, maybe not. It depends what kind of a gamer you are. But then I went to implement these in the game. So I gave them to my game guy. We worked on the coding and we put it in. Well, he did a lot more of the coding. I did a lot more of the watching. And we got it in. So finally, when you clicked on someone and they asked you a question, it would play the neutral response. And then if you said yes or no, they gave you either a good response or a bad response. What I didn't realize was how these lines actually worked in the game. Were very simple questions, and then a quick answer or a quick a quick yes, like they're happy, and then if you say no to them, then they're upset. So that basically completely changed the way that I did my dialogue. And let me show you what was actually meant to happen in the game. So this is This is my latest one. I've just flattened out the list so you can see. So these are all the female voices, all the male voices, and all the different goods, bads, and all the different characters. There's a lot that goes into it. But this is kind of what we needed for the game. So basically, they walk up to your throne, you click on them, they ask you a question, and then you have to say yes or no. If you say yes, they're happy. And if you say no, they're upset. So, so I could have saved myself a lot of time and a lot of effort, and I could have done the recording session basically once. But I didn't really communicate properly, which wasn't a very smart idea from the start. And it took me a lot of trial and error, and of course, realizing that I've basically gone in a completely wrong direction from the get go. But lessons learned. I'm still kind of happy with the outcome, and let me run you through a few of the dialogue lines. So there are a lot of different characters. There's an old shopkeeper, which was great fun to record. There's like a nobleman. And plenty. My favorite's probably the jester. Very sing-songy and very, very happy. So yeah, these fit in the game pretty well. Well, they're still working. Like I said, once the game is working 100%, you'll see another video from me, and it'll actually be my gameplay of me playing the game and walking you through all the audio that actually manages to work in the game. I'm really looking forward to that day, to be honest, because I haven't had much of a chance to really do that before with some of my other projects. But yeah, this is how the dialogue kind of evolved in this project. I really didn't think that it would be as much of a struggle as it was, but in making things more dynamic and more interesting, I made my life 10 times harder than it needed to be. And it also kind of affected the people that I was working with as well, because without clear communication, you can kind of set a project back a little bit, which is what I ended up doing. So instead of having these voice lines ready to go that actually fit in the game, I had to go back and redo it all over again. But I was definitely happy with going back and fixing it and making sure it actually worked, rather than trying to brute force a way of cutting in the voice lines or fading them in and out if they played over top of one another. But at the end of the day, if you make a mistake, it's it's probably best that you go back and fix it. That way, the game doesn't suffer for you being, I don't know, a little bit pretentious or just not wanting to fix your own work. So yeah, that was a nice lesson that I learned from this project. It wasn't necessarily a difficult one or something really interesting in Fmod, unfortunately, because I just one-shot sounds. I did kind of like making the Simlish, the little mixes, which was kind of fun. And if you want to experiment with this in your game, then go ahead. There's plenty of ways to do gibberish or do Simlish in Fmod. You can have sends, you can have transition markers jumping backwards and forwards between tiny little cuts, which I've seen before in the Celeste project, which I'll put a link to in this video, which I got a lot of inspiration from. Well, I got a bit of inspiration from. I kind of tried to do my own thing rather than copy someone else's Fmod session. But yeah, let me know what you think about this kind of Simlish generator, because honestly, it does work. With a little bit more of work, I think it could work. It's more timing and making sure they all flow together. But yeah, that was the lesson for me. It was mostly communication based, but it was good. So never be afraid to bother your teammates or your project workers, the people you're working with on a project. Make sure you know exactly what you need to do. Otherwise, you can dig yourself into a deep hole. And yeah, that's what I learned during this project. Cool. So next I'll cover the rest of my project. I'll kind of show you through the interactions, so some of the building creeks, collections, and coin sounds that we made, and also some button clicks and enemy sounds. And yeah, thank you for watching.